Russia has brokered a deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan aimed at ending the battle over the disputed enclave Nagorno Karabakh. Under the agreement, Russian peacekeepers will remain on the front line for at least 5 years. How long this ceasefire will last is as yet to be seen, as 3 previous agreements fell through within minutes. Louise Miner reports.
The presidents of Azerbaijan, Armenia and Russia have all signed an agreement aimed at halting fighting in Nagorno Karabakh. This deal will see nearly 2,000 Russian peacekeepers deployed. It also means Azerbaijan will retain control of areas it has gained during the conflict.
I'm happy to have signed this historic document. I'm happy to see that we are returning to our homeland, our native Karabakh, to Shushi, the crown of our Karabakh, and we will live in these lands forever. After that, no one will be able to move us from these lands.
After the announcement, hundreds broke into government buildings in the capital of Armenia at Yerevan. The Armenian Prime Minister described the settlement as incredibly painful.
The decision has been taken as a result of analysis of the military situation and based on the assessments of people who are the most familiar with the military situation. We have to understand that our army fought against terrorists, the Second Army of NATO, Turkey, and the Army of Azerbaijan.
Meanwhile, Turkey's foreign minister says they'll stand alongside Azerbaijan.
Armenia was the one to always break the ceasefires. Armenia was the one who wanted war and fighting to continue. Armenia paid a heavy price for this.
The Russian peacekeepers will guard the so-called Lakin corridor. The mountain pass links Armenia to the capital, Stepanakert, as it's known by the Armenians, and Kenkendi to Azerbaijan. The mission will include 15 motor and rifle peacekeeping divisions from Russia's central military district. It'll be under a 5-year mandate, and Turkey will also be part of the peacekeeping process. 10 transport planes have already left western Russia with military vehicles and personnel. Louise Miner, Euronews.
For more on this story, our reporter Jack LOSH joins me now from Armenia's capital, Yerevan. Well, hello there to you, Jack. So there's anger and sadness in Armenia at this peace agreement. What's the mood like now?
It's been quite a tumultuous 24 hours here in Yerevan. I'd say the mood right now on the city streets is somber, but there's still a lot of anger, there's a lot of disbelief, and there's still a palpable sense of shock among Armenians that this peace deal could get passed. I've been speaking to a lot of people on the streets today, and they feel that there was no compromise in this. They feel that actually this was less than compromise. They've seen thousands died, and they've seen lands that they regard as their own. And of course, both sides have their own claim to these lands. But certainly the Armenians see these lands having been taken away, and they've received nothing in return. Last night, huge amounts of unrest broke out on the streets of Yerevan. Protesters flooded the streets. They stormed government buildings. They ransacked the interior. They ransacked the office of the Prime Minister, Nikol Pashinyan. And that initial unrest lasted until 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. It's now subsided. Rallies have begun breaking out in certain places in the capital. Tomorrow will be a decisive day for what has shifted from being a military crisis to potentially being a political crisis. Many opposition parties are now calling for the resignation of the Prime Minister, who put his signature onto this contentious peace deal, and they will be seeking his removal. The problem with that, there are some people in Armenia who believe that while Pashinyan has been a great disappointment with this, that actually far darker political powers, political elites, may lie behind him and may be seeking to utilize this moment of disbelief to usher themselves back into power, of course, who are criticized for years for being corrupt and stealing from the country. So right now, Yerevan is on tenterhooks, and the future is looking particularly uncertain.
And in the midst of all of this, Jack, there's thousands of Armenians who've been caught up in this fighting. Many have fled to Yerevan for shelter. Now, with Russian peacekeeping forces coming in on the ground, are there plans for these people to return home?
This military conflict has created a very alarming humanitarian crisis, and a crisis that is potentially only going to get worse as winter comes. The fighting has seen about 100,000 ethnic Armenians displaced from Artsakh, or Nagorno Karabakh, as the Armenians call it. Aliyev, in an interview just a few days ago, publicly vowed that any Armenians returning to these lands that are now under Azerbaijani control will be safe, that they won't be persecuted, that they won't be lynched. He has made those public proclamations, but there is a lot of concern among the Armenians that I've been speaking with that what happens when they do go back? Sure, there are now about 2,000 Russian peacekeepers on the ground, but many people here feel betrayed by Russia, and they can only see that there's an agenda behind Moscow's actions here, that it's actually really just a great power play between Moscow on the one hand and Ankara and Turkey on the other. There is a deep amount of skepticism among the tens of thousands of Armenians who've fled from their homes, who've been uprooted by fighting, and the future is looking particularly bleak for them right now. Do they return home to bombed out villages, bombed out towns, where a potential hostile enemy may be waiting for them, or do they try and start a new future here at the onset of winter, living in temporary accommodation, in run-down flea pit hotels? It is a very, very troubling time for these people.
A troubling time indeed. Well, many thanks, Jack LOSH there joining us from Yerevan.